My name is Dynamo, and I am an illustrator, and I illustrate scenes from Mad Men on the internet. Well, Rich Sommer, who plays Harry on the show, lived in New York and did comedy at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater here in New York, and I got to know him there when he was a student and I think an intern, and know him from getting drunk at parties and passing out really quickly. That was what he was known for. I'd watched the show. The show had already been airing for about 5 or 6 episodes by the time I started watching season 1, and I downloaded it legally and I paid for it. I sort of watched season 1 in the first half of it in one big chunk online, legally, and I enjoyed it, and that's why I started asking him about the show. I would just email Rich. The Mad Men season 1 had just started, so I was sending him emails asking him specific, really anal questions about how things were done on the show and how long it took to choreograph the twist and so on, and he would answer them. And then he asked me, because I had been doing flyers for the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater even when he was there, so he said, I'd really like to do a Christmas card for the cast because we've had this great first season. And I said, you know what? I've got all this downtime. Why don't I do your Christmas card for you? So I said, well, you have any ideas? He's like, I don't know, like a drawing of Matt Weiner dreaming the show. And I was like, that's awful. He was like, yeah, that is awful. So online there's actually great sort of repositories of vintage illustration from advertisements and children's books. So I had like a pretty, good sense of the era. And I was like, it'd be really cool. What if we made it look like a Christmas ad from that era and a little before? So I decided to draw the Sterling Cooper Christmas party. And originally there was going to be like copy below it and like a tagline at the top, and we ended up kind of reining it into just the Christmas party. But I did spend about 4 months figuring out what I was going to do and meticulously drawing every tiny detail that was not visible in the finished one. And he ended up just printing it on his own and sending it to everyone in the cast, and they all enjoyed it, and I got my first burst of what was soon to become international fame for doing this free project while stealing time from my advertising job. He was very grateful. He gave me a copy of the shooting script of the finale as a gift, and screener DVDs of it. And it launched my career as it is at this moment, which drawing Mad Men is about 90% of my output. Season 2, they wanted to do an end of shoot gift to the cast and crew, and Rich and Christina and I think Vince were the committee to decide of what the gift was going to be. And they said, well, let's do a little recipe book, illustrated recipe book with cocktail recipes, a drawing of a cocktail and a drawing of a character like next to it. And it was going to be this like, really tiny like 6-inch by 6-inch booklet. So Rich pitched this to me and I was like, great, I don't have anything going on. And he's like, and we need it in 2 weeks. I'm like, 2 weeks? That's crazy. It was like 12 drawings and layout and, recipes and stuff. And I said, okay, you get me the copy, I'll start working on it. 4 or 5 days passed, I hadn't heard anything, and I had to get it done because we only had 2 weeks. So I just started doing them. And then I wrote to Rich and I was like, okay, here's the samples of the first 2 pages. Is this gonna work with the copy? Is this gonna work with the layout? And he said that we weren't gonna do it, but he didn't tell me that. So I forgave him. But I was left with this stack of drawings that I'd already done of characters and drinks. And I was like, well, why don't I just put these on the internet? And, the show is season 2 is going to be starting pretty soon. So I'll just put one up every week. So when people watch the show, they'll go and they'll see the new character drawing that I had already. So I started just uploading them. And by the time the 3rd one was up, I had been blogged and reblogged, and I was all over the internet, and sort of the hits went from several hundred to several thousand to several 100,000 very, very quickly. So I actually was on vacation at the time that I had put the 3rd one up, and I was just getting tons and tons of emails. So I was like, oh, now I actually have to do a good job because people are looking at them. So I actually started drawing scenes from the show instead of just the stockpile of drawings I already had. So from then, every 2 weeks it would get a massive amount of publicity hit. I was in lots of newspapers, lots of blogs of newspapers, internationally, England, places that didn't even have, Mad Men Season 2 were blogging about the drawings of Season 2. So by the end of the season, I was regularly counting on at least 10,000 hits a week for the new drawing. And by the end of the year, it was like 1.5 million for the set. I use a mouse, which people find very unbelievable, but I have a tablet and a light pen, but I don't use it because I find it very hard to kind of make the connection from the way an Earth pen works and the way a computer pen works, so I do it with a mouse. It's all done digitally in vectors, so basically it's a lot like the kids' game Color Forms. I make shapes and then meld shapes together, and they're just they're like circles and squares squished together. And I enter a Zen state in which I can see all dimensions at the same time, and I'm full awareness of every life on Earth. They enter my brain. And once I'm fully connected with the universe, the drawings it just happens. I wake up about 8 hours later, and it's just done in front of me. I have no idea what's happened. Well, when I was doing the episodes, my biggest concern was I had to have it done in 3 days, because I would not watch the show until it had aired. And then usually not until it was online, which was another day later. And if I didn't have them by Wednesday, no one would check. So in most cases, I had about 8 hours to do them. So my measure was, if I could guess what was going to happen in the episode based on the trailer of next week on, I would say, well, that seems to be an episode that's about Dawn, so I'll draw some Dawn stuff, and if I'm right, then I can just sort of add the specifics. Or if it was the character I hadn't drawn yet and they were in the trailer, I would draw them preemptively, but I did mess up, and some of my drawings have nothing to do with what was in the show because I presumed a character was going to be a scene that they weren't and didn't have time to redo it. So my determination is, what can I do quickly? What do I think the episode is about? And who haven't I drawn yet? I liked the composition of that. I also really liked the scene, obviously, but her hat was so fascinating that trying to figure out how to do that digitally, where I drew every fur hair on her hat, I spent about 2 hours on that hat. That's not true. It felt like 2 hours because I drew every hair on her hat. I was very interested in her hat. And chickens. Betty in the bathroom being observed by young Glenn. Well, Glenn is my favorite character of the non-office workers, and if Dawn was replaced by Glenn, I think the show would be 150% better. I think it would be epic. It would get 20 times the Emmys. That was another one that was a request. One of the first bloggers who wrote about me requested that scene. That also was one of the first ones I made sized to fit on an iPhone or a digital device. So it's, instead of being a wide computer screen size thing, it's like a tall, skinny, portable device-sized one. So if you enjoy having a woman being spied on by a little boy on the toilet, you can carry it with you on your portable digital device. Betty and the Doves, I got several hundred requests for. I'd already done, I didn't do season 1 episode at a time. I did season 2 episode at a time, and To a Degree did season 3 episode at a time, although I'm right now in a hiatus. So what happened was I just got repeated requests for it, so I decided to go back in between season 2 and 3 and draw some scenes from season 1. So I got so many requests for the pigeon scene that I drew the pigeon scene. That's all I'm going to say about it. Freddie's accident. The scene is so great, I don't think my drawing captures it, so I've actually tried to do it multiple times. But people really like that scene, so I think their love of the scene transcends my drawing of it. This was one that Matt requested be in the calendar that was given to the cast and crew, and I said, are you sure? Because I don't want Joel Murray thinking that I hate him. And he said, oh, comedians love pissing on themselves, it's a gift. So by special request, that was in his calendar. There's a sort of a design cliche almost of the late 50s and early 60s where they do a color wash but then go in with like a pencil or a very thin line and kind of outline the background, which is what I was trying to do in that one, where her apartment is all sort of a yellow wash, but the details are all done in a kind of ochre colored, very thin pencil line. So as they went on and I was doing those episodes as they were airing, I tried to kind of give myself design challenges to make them less boring, because if I just did the same figure instead of a color background, which would be very easy, and people would be very happy because they would be excellent, I wanted to have a design challenge, so I was trying to lift that design style from the era of the penciled in background but the fully colored figures in front. So the drawing I did for the season finale of season 2, one of the ones I did was all four guys in the room watching the television. And I like that one a lot because the blocking is very sort of almost like a Renaissance painting, the way that they're clustered around. It was a shame not to just draw it as it was. But I realized after I had done it that by including it after Harry had entered and holds up the television cable, I had missed out on Michael Gladys's withering glare off camera, which kind of was more important than having Harry in the scene. So I went back and redrew it. So there are two versions of that scene that I drew. Both of them with their merits, but I think withering glare is the top-notch one. The ones I've done for season 3, it's going to be a very short list because we're very early into season 3 right now at the time of this taping. Of season 3, I did the first 2 episodes. I did Don in the hallway with his flight attendant friend. And the other one I did is Peggy at the bar, where she meets the fella. And that one I entirely filled up with drawings of my friends because I wasn't that much of a super anal fan that I would draw all the extras. Even though my heart goes out to extras, I've been an extra. It's a wonderful career. People should look into being extras. I put on pictures of my friends as the crowd and then highlighted Peggy in color amidst the sea of sepia tone bar patrons. And that was the one where I had a couple of people with pint glasses, and then someone pointed out to me that pint glasses were not in use at that time, so I had to go back and do old-timey beer steins, glass ones. So accuracy is key, especially when all your friends are major drinkers who would know that kind of thing. I also did Joan with the accordion because if there were to be a sort of Farrah Fawcett bathing suit poster made of this season, I think that's the poster that teenage boys would have hanging in their bedrooms if they were very creepy. Joan and an accordion. If you're a fan of something, you want to show everybody you're a fan of it. So making your desktop wallpaper into a drawing, I think, is the equivalent of having like 15 million Star Wars figurines on your desktop. Like, you want to show that you love something, and my drawings fill that niche. And also that they are excellent and very good and top-notch. Those are the reasons they're very popular, because people demand quality. I'm very flattered I have fans, but there is a message I have to convey. If you see me in person and you recognize me, I urge my fans, I'm very nearsighted, I startle very easily, and I have a crazy right hook. So approach slowly, because if you startle me, I'm just gonna punch like mad, and your face meets my iron fist, I'm gonna just knock your block off. So be calm, be friendly, use small words because I get confused very easily. I'm like a rhinoceros, endangered, very thick skin, horrible smell. So be kind. Be kind to me, be kind to all the celebrities you meet, because I am a celebrity. And be kind to each other. That's what I can pass on. That's the one thing Mad Men Season 3 has taught me. More kindness in the world. From me to you.